Hi guys, Brand here, and welcome back to another commentary video. Told you, I'm coming back trying to get hard hitting with this stuff. One of the things that I've always found pretty interesting about Dead by Daylight is that there's always a lot of sore losers in every game that you play, both in real life and online. One of the things that seems to propagate Dead by Daylight specifically are sore winners. People that win, and for some reason, despite the fact that they have won, whether it be a 4 out or a 4K, like to gloat in the after chat. Almost everybody in Dead by Daylight has had this experience, and it's just one of those ones that's like really puzzling because they've already kind of made you feel bad by absolutely dominating the match, but for some reason they have to take it that extra step and make you feel like crap about it after the fact. This doesn't make sense. Usually a sore loser will be like, oh, well, you played dishonorably, you used too many slowdown, or you tunneled too early. They'll say stuff like that to try and get you to feel bad about your win, to disqualify your win. But what happens when the win is pretty firm and defined and can't be objectively dissuaded, but people still decide to try and rub it in and make it worse? What is the psychology behind that, and why do people do that? I think I may have found an answer for this when I went diving into psychologically why this happens and the ways we can work around it. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started. The main thing I found was when I was looking into the work of well-known psychotherapist Alan Wagner was that the people that are sore winners, they essentially have, just like any bully in the world, they have very, very low self-esteem, which means that in order to win in their mind, in their heart, whatever you want to say, in their soul, make it like super deep. Basically, a win to them doesn't count as just like a 4K or a 4 out, depending on what side they're playing. What would objectively be considered a win is not enough. What Alan Wagner says is that for sore winners, they have to draw their success from a direct product of someone's failure. It is not enough simply that they win in an objective term, because they are so low in self-esteem that even an objective win from their point of view is not enough to solidify. They really need to feel like their win cannot be contested in any way, even if it's already an objective win like a 4K or 4 out in Dead by Daylight. So the win isn't enough, so they have to make it a direct product of someone else's failure. Not only did they win, but they won because you're bad and you never stood a chance. They essentially have to break through the ceiling and find an extra bit at the top that did not previously exist to even further cement their victory. What I liked about what Wagner said is that there's this metaphor that they used, which is that there's a metaphor of a cup with no bottom. So think like a 4K or a 4 out, which is like a completely dominant victory in Dead by Daylight. No matter, you know, Dead by Daylight is one of those games where there's like no clear win point, but we as a community have basically agreed that like 2K, 2 out is a tie, 1K, 1 out, you know, loss, you know, 3 or 4K or 3 or 4 out is a win. We've basically defined what a win or a loss is in this game, even if, you know, there's not technically a win or loss state in the game. With the metaphor of the cup with no bottom, a 4K or a 4 out goes into the cup, but since the cup has no bottom, it does not fill the cup. Like, it just goes straight out the bottom, and it means essentially nothing to these people. And I think a great part of what kind of encourages this is that a lot of the victory in Dead by Daylight often is attributed to RNG, extremely strong perk strength, stuff like that that isn't really skill effective, which probably plays some sort of role in why it doesn't necessarily feel as good. It doesn't feel fulfilling to win, because I feel like somewhere deep down these people understand what they did was not tremendously difficult, so they feel they need to rub it in to get that high, to get that feeling, to get that filling in the cup that they aren't getting naturally. However, what this causes is kind of just like this like endless cycle, because since, you know, if we're looking at the same metaphor, if there's no bottom to the cup, every time they fill it, even when they're filling it with that extra bit of, oh, well, you suck, or you're terrible, try playing a better killer, even if they're saying stuff like that, the cup is still bottomless. No matter how much you fill this, it's always going to be empty. It's always going to be going out the bottom, so they're never going to feel filled. And that's why you have these people end up playing DVDs by hating the game, playing it over and over and over, being mean and nasty and toxic in the after game chats. But for some reason, despite having a generally negative experience, they don't quit, because it's their instinct to keep filling, but they don't realize that by being a sore winner, the bottom of their cup is empty, which means no matter how much they fill that cup, it's never going to be filled. I think on the flip side, what I actually want to cover, and this might be a little bit interesting, is that I feel like some people do that and they don't even think about it too. Like, not even just like the super objectively terrible stuff, like you're terrible, you're bad, GG, easy. But like some people I feel like rub it in and they don't even realize. Like, it's just the thrill of the game. They like trash talking and they just get a little too into it. And people that are a little bit more conscious about that and kind of find themselves doing that and may regret it, there's actually a very, very easy way to turn this around, to turn this feeling around into something that is positive for you instead of negative, not only to others, but to yourself. What you would do with this is you would take this feeling of drawing the success from someone else's failure and switch it over into drawing the success from the product of your last performance. Instead of aiming it as a completely separate person, draw it from essentially you in the past. Like, how did I perform before? What was that performance I had before, and compare myself to essentially an old version of myself and see how much I've come or how much I have regressed. When you start competing, if you are fixated on competing against a specific person and making a specific person feel lesser because that makes your feeling of success amplified, if you do that to yourself, there's a lot less harm and negativity spread, and honestly, measuring yourself against yourself is probably the best way to hone your skill, because who better to correct your own mistakes than you who are intimately aware of them? But yeah, I thought that was a very, very interesting, psychologically backed reasoning as to why there's so many sore winners, especially in the game of Dead by Daylight. What do you guys think? Do you think this is something that plagues Dead by Daylight specifically, or do you think it's something that's just kind of pervasive in online gaming in general? Let me know in the comments below. Other than that, that's going to be it for today's video, friends. I do upload daily, so I will see you tomorrow. But if I do not, I'll see you when I see you. Goodbye.